Welcome to More Action, the podcast for entrepreneurs, business owners, and professionals. I'm your host, Shelly Bryan, and together we have candid conversations with industry leaders to uncover valuable wisdom and lessons learned. My hope is you use these lessons to intentionally take more action in business and life. I hope you share and enjoy. It has been 20 years now. October hits the 20-year mark that I have been blind in my left eye. Sounds crazy if you haven't been tuning into the show, but I have shared it time and time again that I am blind in my left eye, and I was not born this way. It happened when I was 24 years old, and I just started reflecting on it because October just kind of always brings up a lot of emotion and just reflection for me to see how far I've come and the things that I've been able to do, even being blind in one eye. Now, if you are watching over on YouTube, you might be like, I don't see it. Now you will, because I am talking about it. So you'll definitely see that my left eye, it's smaller, it's atrophying. I am not there yet for the glass eye, but I wanted to take today's episode and share 10 ideas, 10 things that I have learned over the last 20 years since losing my eyesight. And they're going to be things that might surprise you a little bit because of what happened to me, but this could happen to anybody. And so I'm going to give you a little background, but I invite you to tune back in to episode 2. That's where I really share a lot of detail, as you can imagine, episode 2 here on the show, a lot of detail on what happened. I'm going to give you the cliff notes now, and then we're going to go through this actually because I kept thinking about it and reflecting. It's essentially, I was going to do 3. I always like to do 3 things, but I just kept going about all of these great lessons that I learned because of losing my eyesight. Like, things happen for you, not to you. And you're going to hear that theme when I go through this, but we are going to put this into a 2-part series. So I'm going to go over the first 5 in today's episode. And then the next episode will have numbers 6 through 10. So the other 5, and they're not prioritized. They're not one's more important than the other. It's truly just, these are 10 ideas, 10 lessons, 10 things that I have adopted into my life since losing my eyesight. And I know that they are going to be relevant to you because I have been recently interviewed on a lot of other podcasts and they come up and up again. So wanted to dedicate some time here on the More Action Pod. You know, I am all about taking more action. And if we aren't connected already on LinkedIn or Instagram, make sure that we connect there. Also, don't forget to go hit subscribe over on YouTube. The community is growing there. I'm like into the triple digits. I love it. So let's start off. I wanted to give you guys just a tiny little background. I invite you again to go back to episode 2, but just a little background on what happened. So if you're new to the show, you're not feeling left out. Essentially, when I was 24 years old, I had just been in the financial industry, built up a $17 million book of business as an early 20-year-old. Then realizing I wanted to transition careers and go into the pharmaceutical industry. So I was in finance, really successful, really hard. I was making 400 dials a day. I literally had a phone and a computer, and that's it. And I started with 0. And in 2.5 years, I was managing over $17 million. So you can imagine the work that comes with that. Then transitioning over to the pharmaceutical industry, obviously new, exciting, high quotas, all the things. But what had happened during that time frame is I had worked my body to pure exhaustion, because I know that if you're tuning into this show, you're a high achiever like me. And so we do all the things that is necessary to succeed. And that meant not taking care of myself because I needed to make sure that I could put food on the table for myself when I was that young. You know, in the financial industry, it's truly like, it's not a salary. It's not like, oh, everything's safe and good. You have to build up your business or you die. And that's it. You get fired. That's just how it is. And so I was doing everything possible to do it. I was first one in, last one out. And essentially, I just weakened my immune system. My body could not keep a virus that 80 to 90% of us have, right? If you're like an 80s kids and before, like me, I'm an 80s kid, that if you had chicken pox, it's called the zoster virus. That virus typically comes out in adults when they're in stressful situations, in shingles. So if you've ever had a friend that has had shingles, it's typically only one side of the body. It's very painful, very tender. Essentially, it lives in your nerves. I'm giving you a little medical background and you'll understand more of this because I spent, 16 years in the medical industry. And when that virus stays subdued, so when you get chickenpox as a kid, then it goes away and your body keeps that virus at bay if your body is healthy. But then if your body is weakened and or highly stressed, that virus comes back to life through your nerves. Well, it came out in my optic nerve. Very rare. I never had any lesions on my body. Woke up one morning and literally could not see out of my eye. And it was too late by the time I got to the right specialist. It was too late to reverse any of the damage. So since October, I mean, truly, I remember October 4th, 5th, and 6th. I was in the hospital watching the election. Actually, it was crazy. So, it's one of those things that I think is really important to talk about a little bit more. You're going to hear me share some of those learnings today, but your body is just so powerful in the things that we can do. Having said that, it's our responsibility to take care of it. It's not our responsibility to change or to not care for this gift that we have of this amazing body. And that brings me actually to my first learning that I wanted to share with you is that health is everything. And I know that sounds super cliche, and you might be like, yeah, Shelly, totally get it. Don't have time right now, right? I'm too focused on my business, or I'm focused on my career, or I'm focused on my family. I just don't have any time. But I'm going to tell you, your health is everything. Going blind in one eye at 24 years old, I was like invincible. I thought nothing could get me. I had so much I wanted to do in life. I had just gotten engaged to Chris. Now we're celebrating 20 years. It's crazy. Like, I had just gotten engaged to Chris, just got a new job. We just bought a house. Like, all these wonderful things were going on in my life. And bam, I woke up one morning and I couldn't see out of my left eye. Truly, it was just that. And so there's a quote that I've heard and it just resonated with me, and I'm going to share a little bit more on it today, is that the healthy person wants many things and the sick person only wants one. Think about that for a second. I know that you're doing all the things out there and going as hard as you can because you are healthy and you want many things. But if we don't take care of our bodies, you will only want one. And so when I looked at this, that health was everything because I, at this point, only had one eye left, right? And I still had so much I wanted to do in my life. And I didn't want to do that blind. I wanted to be able to see and be able to, you know, take in everything visually that I was doing. And I was just engaged to Chris. Could you imagine, like, even what he was going through as I was going through this at the same time? We're not even married yet. I kept him though. So, all right. But I want to give you guys a different perspective. When I say health is everything, is because like you can't do the things that you're doing if you don't have your health. And so I also understand that we are high achievers. I wasn't going to stop, right? This is who I am, is a high achiever. I want to go do the things. I want to take more action. I want to achieve all of my goals that I set out there. And so I was like, how do I do this and still care for myself? And so I didn't focus on changing who I was. And you're going to hear this out there a lot. It's like, oh, reduce your stress, right? Because stress was a big trigger in this for me. And I know people think like, oh, I'm not stressed. You are. Every day we are stresses. Now we have snowbirds coming back in the droves to Arizona. You're driving on the road, you're stressed. Is like when you hear stress, I don't want you to think about removing your stress. That's not it. It's how can you manage your stress? Don't change who you are. Manage your stress. How can you view stress differently? And you're going to hear me talk about this a little bit more in episode 2, is that how can you manage your stress? How can you keep your body strong to support everything you want to do? That's how I looked at it. I was like, all right, I have one eye left. What am I going to do? We have a lot, Chris and I, we have a lot that we want to accomplish in our life. I need to stay focused on all of the things that I want to do. And so I completely changed my nutrition. I completely changed my movement. It wasn't necessarily 100% sure at first. Sure, it was about physique and physical vain appearances. But then as time has gone on over the last 20 years, I'm like, how can I keep myself strong? I worked with a drug that supports osteoporosis when I was in pharmaceuticals and dermatology. Like those were to my bone health and dermatology. So important for aging population. I'm 44 at this point, recording this podcast. Those two things, right? Like, how can I keep my skin healthy? That's not just applying creams or getting filler or different treatments. It starts on the inside. So nutrition and then bodybuilding and or strength training. Building muscle is going to support strong bones. Those two things right there will dramatically change your health and support you for everything that you want to do. And so that's all I did is I started moving more. I tried so many different types of workouts. I learned nutrition and how I could support myself, which has transitioned into how can I support my 2 kids and their nutrition as they are both completely, engulfed in athletics. So I share this, that health is everything, because it is. And if you have ever found yourself saying, I'll take care of myself when, that is your indicator right there. Don't let your when be losing an eye like me. This is rare. It is, but it's not that rare. Shingles isn't rare. I'm sure you've heard of that. It just happened to come out on my optic nerve rather than like my rib cage area where it typically happens. You hear other things, hair loss, weight gain, weight loss, high blood pressure. All of these things are indicators that your health is not your priority. And so health is everything, something I will never let go of. And I've been so blessed to be able to share all of my learnings with my kids, which I never got. All right. So the second thing that I learned, there's so many. The second thing that I learned is to be your best advocate. Now, this is going to start off in like health, be your best advocate. But I then transitioned that skill over to being my best advocate in my career. So one of the things that I learned is that doctors are practicing medicine. How great is it that when I lost my eyesight, I transitioned over into the medical industry, into the pharmaceutical industry. I had hand-to-hand contact with trainers, or excuse me, with doctors. I was trained in how they thought. I was reading studies and understanding how these studies were created, what they were looking for, what created efficacy versus not, side effects. What a gift that happened, that transition happened right when I lost my eyesight. And so when you look at doctors, being your best advocate, doctors are practicing medicine. Medicine is not black and white. I hate to break it to you if this is your first time hearing it, but doctors take in information and based upon their experience and training, share their best practices. And unfortunately, our medical industry has gotten just horrible from when I was in it back in 2004. It was when I started, but they're sharing their experiences. And so let me just share like just a little example to drill this in. So when I first lost my eyesight, I went to Mayo Clinic here in Arizona. Everybody knows about Mayo Clinic. Yay, Mayo Clinic. I'm not a fan of it. I went to Mayo Clinic. I went to the emergency room. He called the ophthalmologist. The ophthalmologist, who was 2 floors up, was too busy at like 7 a.m, too busy to come down and actually see me. Prescribed me, like, I think it was a steroid drop, an antibiotic drop, and an anti-inflammatory drop, which was different than the steroid drop, and sent me packing and was like, go see your ophthalmologist on Monday. right? So I go, I don't have an ophthalmologist. I go and I find one that's covered in my insurance. I go there and he's like, this is odd. Never seen this. And he was an older gentleman. Okay. That's a key thing. He was an older gentleman practicing for years, never seen this. He's like, I think we need to go get an MRI. They first thought I had MS. And so get the MRI. Days later, we get the results, right? So that was Monday. I think I got the MRI on Tuesday. We had the results by Thursday, which was actually really quick at that time. And he's like, okay, no MS, but I'm going to send you to a retinal specialist because we need to get a steroid injection on your optic nerve to calm it down because it was so severely inflamed. And that sounded horrible. But I then got into, there's only a few groups in town at this point that were retinal specialists. And I go in there and I'm sitting there with the doctor. He looks at my eye. I literally step out of the room for a minute to go run to the restroom and come back. And my mom had come with me because I was like, I don't know what's going on. Chris was working. I was like, Mom, come with me. And my mom's face is white when I come back in the room. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? He goes, which hospital do you want to go to? I'm going to check you in. You need to get over there and get on antivirals, right? Remember, I told you this was a virus that sits dormant in your body. He goes, I have only seen this once before, but it was called acute retinal necrosis. And he said, we need to get antivirals in you ASAP before it transfers to the other eye. At this point, it was nearly 10 days since I first couldn't see out of the eye. I was prescribed some drops by the emergency room doctor at Mayo. And then, I went and saw the ophthalmologist. He didn't really know, I'd never seen it, sent me to go get another test, ruled that out, then got me to the specialist who, in literally 30 seconds of seeing my eye, knew what it was based on his experience and sent me to the hospital. And I was in the hospital. I had a PICC line after when I came home. I was on antivirals for a month IV to make sure that this did not transfer to my other eye. So I share that because had I already had this experience, I would have advocated so hard for myself to get to the specialist immediately for hopes of potentially saving my eye. But because I didn't know. And I share this now to tell you is that our health system, I'm not going to go on the rant, but our health system is broken. And you as a patient, it is your responsibility to take care of your health. And so I can tell you right now, this experience was the best gift because now I am the best health advocate, not only for myself, but for my kids, for Chris, my parents. I ask the questions that people don't think about because I want to advocate for me. I want to advocate for the health. And so I share that experience just to tell you that your doctors are doing their best. And there is a lot of bad doctors out there. I'm going to tell you that. Just like there's a lot of bad lawyers, just like there's a lot of bad construction people. You have to be an advocate for yourself. If you don't like what you hear from one doctor, go get a second opinion. That is okay. It is our responsibility to do so. And just understand that you have to build a team, just like you build a team for your business or for your career or for just networking. You have this team of people that support you. Your health is the same thing. And so I have a team of doctors now. I am the largest advocate for specialists because you cannot be a master of everything. You have to go straight to the specialist to be able to get the knowledge and the experience. That doctor, that retinal specialist that I saw, he literally, I came in, I see him once a year. I came in one time and he was like, I was thinking about you the other day. He goes, I had a 52-year-old construction worker that didn't get to me in time and went blind in both eyes. And I looked at him and I'm like, what do you need me to do? Do you need me to what can we stop this for other people? Like poke me, prod me, run tests on me, make it so that we can stop this from happening to other people out there. Because it's like we have to advocate for ourselves. So being your best advocate also transitions, that experience, I am not only the best advocate for my family and for me when it comes to our health, but also for my career. That experience taught me how to advocate for myself and my career. When I was in that pharmaceutical industry, it is all stacked ranked based on, quotas and what you're able to do. You can affect some of it, not all of it. It's a very interesting industry, especially now as I'm building a sales team, a business development team here for our construction company. I know what I'm, let's just say, not going to do, but I know the type of people that I do want based upon this experience. However, I will tell you that being your best advocate in your career, no one else is going to fight for you. Same thing like in your health. You have to advocate for yourself. What are you doing to earn the promotion at work? What are you doing? What are the actions that you are doing to be able to get the commission, to win the new job? It's the same thing, being an advocate for yourself. I remember when I was in the pharmaceutical industry, once a year they would give raises. You might be able to tie into this. Once a year they would give raises. And each district manager had 7 to 9 reps under them. This was when I first started in sales. I moved into other positions. But then they would look at it and be like, okay, well, of this piece of my pie, I'm going to give 5% to this person, 10% to this person, 15% to this person. It was truly just subjective. Like, here's what I think my team all gets their piece of my little pie that I get a share of raises. You know who got the most typically, like, of the group? Me, because I advocated for it. Because I told my boss at that time, here are the things that I'm doing. Here's how I'm adding to the company. Here's the people that I helped. Here's the things that I suggest that we start doing. And I'm going to give it a try and I'll give you feedback on it. I was advocating for myself so that when it came time for the raise, I said, hey, look at this huge list that I have of all these things that I have been able to do not only for myself, but for the company and for my teammates. So because of that, I am going to ask you for the biggest share of the pie. And they would all be like, okay, because I advocated for myself. So I cannot tell you how often I am the biggest advocate for myself. This is why you hear me say, you guys are sharing this out and making this show so great. I'm advocating for this show to be able to grow. It's the same thing. So another lesson was that just being your best advocate. Now, number 3, I've got a lot of stories for you guys over these 20 years that I'm going to share. But the third lesson, or I just should say another lesson, these aren't, again, listed in priority. But the third one is to not let others' judgment have any effect on you. This was a lesson that I learned. I remember after I was hospitalized and then I was off, in my job. And then I came back to work. And in pharmaceutical sales, you basically have a group of doctors or an area of doctors, specialty. I was in dermatology at that time. And one of my quote unquote like friends in the industry, she was a nurse practitioner at a very prominent office here in town. And I remember I walked in and she saw me and she was like, oh, Shelly, you're back. And I'm like, yeah, hey, it's so great to see you. I'm so excited to be back and be out. High achievers, we don't like sitting still. I'm like, yes, I'm so glad. And she looked at me and she's like, oh my God, what are you going to do? And I'm like, what do you mean? What am I going to do? Like, it pissed me off. Like, I went from being so happy to being like, what do you mean? What am I going to do? She's like, well, I mean, like, you're blind in one eye. And I'm like, and I'm like, I'm not going to let it bother me. I'm going to keep moving forward in my life. And it was right then that I was like, holy cow, I went from not having a disability to having a disability, and someone who I thought was a friend immediately judged me for what I was, that I was going to be unable to do certain things or unable to be the same person because of it. Can you guys imagine if I had been like, holy cow, and maybe this has happened to you? What are you going to do? I don't know. What am I going to do? What should I do? Should I not look people in the eye because I'm worried about how they're going to look at my bad eye. Should I hide? Should I wear an eye patch? What should I do? Should I not be in this job anymore? And that time, like that was such, you know, how you have like things in your life. Obviously, going blind in one eye is one of those things. Lots of lessons, very huge transition in life. But that was a moment. I literally remember everything. I remember what was on the counter. I remember exactly where I was in this office. This office is no longer in that same location, but I remember it burned into my memory because I immediately knew she judged me, and I was never going to let that judgment have an effect on me. And, you know, it's been really interesting when I think about this judgment because this has happened. I mean, I've done podcast episodes on this, on other people's judgment, not letting it affect you, and even the judgment that you have on yourself. And so when I say don't let others' judgment have an effect on you, it's also don't let the judgment that you have on yourself. You know, people still look at me slightly different, not all the time. Really, it's typically kids. Kids are so great, like little kids, because they look at me and they're like, something's different. I don't know what it is, but her eyes, something's wrong with it. And it just makes me smile. And I ask them, like, do you see something? Like I talk to them about it because most of the time when someone has something, they want to talk about it. They want to share what was going on. So I love kids because of their innocence. But, you know, I always kind of thought about it. I was like, people are going to be looking at me differently now, but I can't look at myself any differently. And I would joke. People, you know, I could tell when they would look at me, it was like funny. They were like, do I look? Do I not? And trying to make sense of what they were seeing with my eye, because you can see it. You can see it more now than you could 10 years ago. But I would be like, I don't look at it. Y'all are looking at me. So like I see no different other than I can't see out of my left eye, but like what I am looking at hasn't changed. What you guys look at has, but it doesn't bother me. Doesn't bother me. Now I will say still to this day, and even more in the last, like I would say 3 to 5-ish years, because the eye is atrophying, it's getting smaller. So it is changing more, is that when I see photos of myself, I'm like, ugh, because like I see it and I don't love it. I don't. This is another lesson I'm going to share in episode 2. But I'm going to tell you right now is that when you are a high achiever, and I have been that in my life, and I have been so focused on the goals that I want that sometimes maybe I wasn't the nicest or most open person. Not because I was mean or I didn't want to. I was just so driven on what I was focused on, what I wanted to achieve. And so there have been times where I could tell not only was I being judged, but I was also judging myself. And this lesson of losing my eyesight has taught me, number one, you can't control anybody else. So if other people have judgment on you, that's not your problem, that's theirs. And the other thing is that their judgment can't affect me. And that's the thing, is like I own whether that judgment affects me or not. I also own whether I'm judging myself. And so if I'm judging myself, I quickly check myself, reflect on it, and ask myself, is this a truth or is this a story? And can I move past this judgment? So I can't tell you enough, you know, when you have something physically that changes on you, and sometimes it's not even physical. Sometimes you are evolving at such a rate that some of your friends that you were friends with aren't evolving at the same rate as you, aren't growing as the same rate as you, and you lose those friendships. And there will be judgment. There will be nasty comments. There will be all of the above. Stay focused on you. Don't let anyone else's judgment affect what you have as far as plans for yourself. And I can tell you, having the physical and seeing this, like that lesson I learned from that nurse practitioner when she immediately judged me and looked at me like a victim, I was like, no way will I ever let anybody else's judgment affect me again. So moving on to the next one, it kind of goes along with this, is that you can be a victim or you can be a victor, but it's your choice. So that is a lesson that I had to learn. And, I had for quite some time, many people that looked at me as a victim. And if I'm going to be honest, which I am here on the show, I don't know why I freaking said that, is I looked at myself when I was a victim. Like when it first happened, of course I had the why me? Why is this happening to me? We haven't even had kids. Like I have so much I want to do. I'm only 24 and now I'm blind in one eye. Oh yeah, I played victim. Hell yeah, I did. And I remember sitting there. And this is how, like, right? Like you could look at this as like a failure too, right? It was like a failure in me to take care of my health, to keep that a priority while I still achieved all the things. And I had to make a choice. How am I going to view myself? Am I going to wallow and stay in this little victim? You don't think I earn it going blind in one eye at 24? Do you know how many walls I run into? Do you know how many things I actually can't do? Like play catch with my kids because I have no depth perception? Sure, I could play victim all day long. That's a choice. And that's not a choice that I was going to allow even to be. I knew right then I had to be the victor. I had to know that, listen, life is going to give you setbacks. There are going to be valleys that you are going to walk through, but it is your choice whether you stay a victim or a victor. And I have strength. This is a skill. This is 100% a skill. This is when I say skill, you can develop this. It's not like, oh, she has it. That's Shelly. Like she's just a strong personality. Like she just always is a victor. Oh, hell no. No, this is a skill that anyone can develop. I told you in the beginning, I for sure was a victim. Again, I had a lot of why me's when this first happened. And then I had to realize that this happened for me. Because honestly, if this hadn't happened to me losing my eyesight, could you imagine where my health would be right now, 20 years later, if I had continued to push myself and not manage my stress and keep my body strong? Could you imagine where I would be right now? What a gift that I have, losing my eyesight. That is a victor's mentality, and that is a choice. And there are definitely one of the things that has helped me develop this is reading. I think of books like Can't Hurt Me from David Goggins. I think of Relentless from Tim Grover. I think of these books where you see people make choice. And I hope that's what this episode is giving you right now. You have a choice. And that's like, I had to make that choice on whether I was going to be a victim or a victor. And I was given that choice because I lost my eyesight. Again, that was a gift because I cannot tell you, if you've been tuning into the show, you know how many times I've failed partnerships, failed businesses, failed restaurant, failed all these different things, but they're not really failures. It's just opportunities to strengthen my victor mindset. It's opportunities for me to learn lessons that I never would have gotten had I not had to go through these hard trials. And so I got to tell you that it is a choice and that you can't let setbacks, failures, disabilities stop you. Look at it as a springboard to take you to the next one and make the choice to be a victor. Now, the last one I'm going to share today is, I think, a great way to kind of sum up this first episode, this part one episode, is that you can do more with less. Think about that for a minute. I had two eyes. Now I only have one. and I'm actually doing more than I ever thought I could. And what it comes down to is gratitude. And I'm not giving you the BS gratitude that you said, like make a gratitude journal and, reflect on your gratitudes every day and make a list and all these different things. That's not what I'm talking about. Is like it is a sense, it is a feeling of being grateful. Every single, try not to cry. Every single morning I wake up and I can see I am so grateful. I am grateful for the lessons that I've learned so that I can continue to see my kids grow up, the business that we're doing. I get to see Chris every day. I am so grateful for that. And so when I say you can do more with less, is what areas are you not appreciating? What areas do you take for granted? Like having two eyes? Is that be grateful for everything that you have right now, not when you lose something like an eye, not when you lose a friend, not when you lose a business. Grateful for all the lessons. Be grateful now. And so that is one thing that I took for granted, having two eyes. I took for granted like all the gifts that I had to be a high achiever. I took it for granted. And I'm telling you now, be grateful now. Own it now. The small things that you think are insignificant, if they were gone, you would be grateful that you had them. So make a shift and be grateful now that you can do more with less. Meaning, when you truly own your gratitude, when you own it with your body, you will see how many wonderful things that you have. You will focus on the things that you have versus the things that you do not have. And you will be able to achieve so much more. And so I share that, slightly with a grain of salt because I don't know that I would understand gratitude unless I lost something like my eye. And so I look at things now that are so small and I'm like, damn, I am so grateful for that. That is so incredible. That is so great for my family, for me. And so I want you to know that when I say do more with less, it's focus on the small things. Those small things and being grateful for those small things will change your life. And so you're probably seeing me if you're over on I have another podcast interview after this one. If you see me over on YouTube, yes, I was crying, came back. Oh, makeup is not too bad. But if you enjoyed this episode, you're going to definitely want to come back for the second half. These are lessons that I have learned over the past 20 years since going blind in one eye. And these are things that are obviously related to health, life, and just like overall, just everything. And so I am so grateful that you are here with me today. I'm so grateful that I get to share this story. I have 5 more lessons for you that I invite you to come back. And you know what? Please, I love connecting with like-minded people. Come on over Instagram and LinkedIn, connect with me there, and let's keep these lessons going. Let's get these out to as many people so that they don't have to go through what I did as far as losing one eye. Thank you again for tuning in. Don't forget to take more action, and we'll see you on part 2.